Hello guys, welcome back to Any Narrates. Here, we review stories that beautiful people like yourselves post on the internet. Today's story's title goes like this. Mother-in-law pulls me aside an hour before my baby shower and tells me to do this, or she'll tell everyone about my quote-unquote secret. So I tell her to go ahead, and my husband ends up kicking her out of the event and our lives forever. I'm 27 female, I'm 20 weeks pregnant, and 3 days ago, I had my baby shower. My husband Shawn and my sister-in-law Hannah were the ones who organized it, and they went all out with it. They rented a pretty big venue, so we could have all of our family and friends present there, and did the place beautifully. My husband took me there about an hour before the guests would arrive because he wanted to have a personal celebration with just our families where we'd open the gifts my in-laws and my parents had bought for the baby. I was thrilled and really excited because of how much work and effort my husband and sister-in-law had put into making that day special for me, until my mother-in-law pulled me aside to talk to me. We'd opened all the gifts that my family had bought for us, and I was happy about it. After that, we were all sitting around and snacking on some appetizers because I was hungry. That's when my mother-in-law, Rebecca, got up and said that she needed to discuss something very important with me. It was weird, because Rebecca and I weren't on the best of terms exactly, because it was a well-known fact that my husband and I had married against her wishes. She'd wanted Shawn to marry their neighbor's daughter and had been insisting on it, but before she could even set them up on a date, he eloped with me. It's been 2 years since, but I don't think she's let it go and keeps her distance from me. She's civil to me when people are around, but I don't think that she would act the same way if it was just the two of us, so I usually avoid her as well. When she said that she wanted to speak to me in person, everyone was a little taken aback, but I did get up and go to a corner with her so we could talk freely. I had no idea what to expect when she said that she knew something really horrible about me. I did a double take because I had no idea what she'd been referring to. I wasn't a very adventurous person, so there wasn't much that she could pick on when it came to my past, and neither did I have many secrets that my husband didn't know of. I thought that she'd say something petty and try to blow it out of proportion to make me look bad, but she brought up one of my ex-boyfriends. I've only ever had 3 exes, and none of those relationships have lasted very long. The relationship that she brought up was definitely a horrible one, and it sucked that she was using that against me. I dated a professor when I was in college for a couple of months, and we'd been pretty serious before I found out that he was getting married. Back then, I was just 19, and the professor I dated was relatively young. He was in his early 30s and had just started teaching. So, of course, when a young and attractive 30-something professor tried to get with me, I wasn't able to resist, and since we were hiding it from everyone because of the policy against students dating teachers, it had that whole forbidden romance thing going on too. A couple of my friends knew, but with time, more and more of my classmates came to know about it because the rumors spread like wildfire. I think a couple of professors knew as well, and that's when my ex told me that we had to tone it down for a couple of weeks. I wasn't happy about it, but I agreed that we needed to break only because I thought that he would get fired for dating me, and that would ruin our relationship. But what did ruin our relationship was his engagement announcement, which came barely 2 weeks after we decided to quote-unquote take a break. It was all over social media because he had announced that he was getting engaged to his long-term girlfriend of 6 years. I was shattered, but I kept it to myself because I still really liked him and I didn't want him to lose his job. So I kept my mouth shut until I graduated, and then we never saw each other again. I dated a guy after I graduated, but it didn't last for more than 8 or 9 months, and it was a pretty toxic relationship, but mostly because of me and my newly developed trust issues, thanks to my professor boyfriend. I would constantly stalk him and get insecure over petty things, so he dumped me soon after. I didn't date anyone, and neither did I want to go out with anyone for a while after that relationship, until I met Shawn. I wasn't even looking for anything serious, and I definitely wasn't looking for a relationship, but what started off as a friendship between us has now lasted for almost 5 years, 2 of which we were married for, and now we're on our way to have a baby. I've put the past behind us and had almost forgotten that I dated my professor for a couple of months in college, because now it just seems irrelevant and insignificant to me. I have Shawn, and that's all I cared about, but evidently Rebecca didn't share the same opinion with me. She recounted the entire story of me having a scandalous affair with my professor in college and how it had been a huge thing that people are still talking about it. She'd been reconnecting with an old friend of hers whom she hadn't spoken to in almost a decade, and that is how my mother-in-law had found out about my history. Since her friend's daughter went to the college with me, and naturally, she'd known about the relationship. Rebecca had visited their house a couple of days before the event, and thanks to my terrible luck, my classmate from college happened to be there and recognized me when Rebecca was showing her friend photos of Shawn and my wedding. That's how she found out, and before the baby shower, she told me that I had to go confess the truth, acknowledge my promiscuity in front of all the guests, and apologize to her son publicly for it, or else she would tell everyone about my little secret. That shook me because the way that she had put it, it sounded a little too blackmailish, and that shocked me. I knew she didn't like me, but I hadn't expected this from her, especially while I was carrying her granddaughter. So I stared at her blankly for a few seconds and then told her to go right ahead and make the announcement because I wasn't going to do any of the things that she'd said. Shawn already knew everything about my exes, and he knew about the professor too. He didn't care about it one bit, and in fact he'd even sympathized with me when I told him. The only person who would judge me for something like that was her, and now, if she wanted to make a fool out of herself at the baby shower by making this announcement, then I wasn't going to stop her or beg her not to do it. My head was going to explode with anger, so after I told her that she could tell everyone about my secret, I walked right back to my seat and tried not to let anything show on my face. Shawn even asked me what his mom had talked to me about, but I dismissed it because I wanted to see how long she could go and if she tried to stir drama at my baby shower or not. If she didn't, I would just tell Shawn after the party, and if she did, then she would just be exposing herself and would probably get herself kicked out of both the event and our lives. So far, Shawn had continued to keep in touch with her out of a sense of duty since he's his parents' oldest child, but I knew that if Rebecca put even a toe out of line, he wouldn't hesitate to cut her right off. That's why I decided to wait it out and see what she would do. And unfortunately for her, she decided that she was going to quote-unquote expose me at the event. After a considerable number of guests had arrived, and most of them were family, she grabbed the karaoke mic and said that she had an announcement to make, looking right at me. I stared at her and refused to let myself be intimidated by her glaring, so she even asked me point blank if I wanted to say anything before she started spilling the beans, and I shook my head. It was terrifying, and I was really nervous on the inside, but I didn't let it show. My husband, my parents, and both my sister-in-law and father-in-law looked lost and confused, but I tried not to look at them because that would just make me feel worse. I just kept my eyes locked on Rebecca while she had the mic, and after I rejected the last chance she'd offer me to apologize and stuff, she started telling everyone what had happened between me and the professor all those years ago. She went on for like 10 minutes and even added her own comments to try and make it more snarky. I could tell that she was having a lot of fun because she thought that she was exposing me and was enjoying this bit. I could hear people murmuring. I don't know what they were saying, but I could hear whispering. I didn't dare to take my ass off Rebecca to see how everyone else had reacted to this information for even a second, because I was that scared of what was going to happen next. Of course, my husband knew, but my parents didn't, and neither did anyone else present at the party. So even if my husband was okay with this and accepted it as part of my past, I wasn't too sure of what other people would think. I didn't care if they liked it or not, but I didn't want people to be judging me right then and there. I was afraid of what my parents would say and how my husband would deal with the situation, because if he continued to keep his mother around, then I'd be really disappointed, and if my parents decided to scream at me about this, then I'd be doubly upset. So, after her big speech, I waited for a couple of seconds, and so did everyone else for something to happen, and there was a pin drop silence for like 2 minutes afterward, until my husband walked up to his mother, grabbed her by the arm, and told her that she needed to get the hell out of here. She protested and said that he couldn't just escort her out, but he didn't even bother to hear her out and just pushed her out of the place while my father-in-law followed silently. He didn't look at me or say anything to me before he left, but has apologized since. Everyone else at the party was just silent for the next few minutes until my husband took the mic and declared that anyone who had a problem with my past could leave right away, because whatever had happened back then wasn't my fault, and it shouldn't be held against me. I was in tears by then, because it had been a very stressful situation for me, so my parents and my sister-in-law hugged me and consoled me while telling me that they were sorry that this had to come out this way, and that no matter what, they would always be on my side. I was pleasantly surprised by the reaction I received, and after a while, a lot of our guests began to come up to me and tell me that they didn't care, that there was no reason for me to feel embarrassed or ashamed or whatever. That made me feel considerably better about everything, and the evening went on like we'd planned. I was a little subdued throughout, but it didn't hamper the event as badly as I thought it was, and by the time we were headed home, I was feeling better. In the car, my husband and I decided to have a little chat about whatever Rebecca had said, and he told me that I should have told him everything about Rebecca's threats right after it had happened, instead of waiting around to find out what would happen later. I explained to him that I didn't think things through, and honestly believed that she was bluffing, so she wouldn't go through with the speech. And even if she did, I told him that part of me wanted to know how everyone would react, because I was tired of carrying this secret around for so long. I also wanted to see what he would do about the situation, because part of me wanted to know who he would pick when it came down to it, me or his mother who hated me. He was silent for a while after I said that, and told me that he would always choose me, because he'd already chosen me, once and for all, by marrying me in spite of his mother, and he thought that that would have been enough. He explained that he kept in touch with his mom because even though she didn't like me, she'd kept things civilized so far, and he believed that she would come around at some point, but obviously that was not going to happen anymore. He was a little quiet after that, and I could tell that he wasn't pleased with how this discussion had turned out because of what I said about wanting to see who he'd choose between his mother and I. I didn't say anything else at the time, and just stayed quiet throughout the car ride home, and we went to sleep without further discussion. The next day, he was back to his normal, fun self, but I haven't been able to get back to normal, and I keep feeling guilty about what happened. He's been trying to coax it out of me and keeps insisting that on the drive back home, he was just tired and he isn't mad at me, but somehow, I don't buy it entirely, and I do think I could have dealt with things in a better way that day. Rebecca hasn't tried to contact us so far, but my father-in-law and Hannah have been in touch with us. They had been careful enough not to mention Rebecca though. Shawn did tell me that he doesn't mind what happened the other day, and thinks that I'd been acting emotionally at the baby shower, that's all. So, he isn't holding any of it against me, because he understands where I'm coming from, but I feel like a total idiot nevertheless. Am I the a-hole for not telling my husband that his mother had threatened to expose my secret at the baby shower because I kinda wanted to see who he would pick between us? Hi everyone, thank you for all the lovely messages and the comments that you guys left in my original post. I've been reading it all and I'm touched, really. I didn't think the situation with the professor would be something so many of you people would be able to relate to, but I'm glad that some of you guys reached out to me to let me know that I wasn't alone, and it wasn't my fault. It was unfortunate that similar things have happened to so many of us, but well, at least a lot of us have led happy lives afterwards, and that's all that matters. Looking back, it was disgusting and very insensitive of Rebecca to even use that against me to taunt me. She's screwed up in the head now that I think of it. I did talk to my husband about whatever had happened though, because I couldn't let him think that I was making him choose or playing mind games with him. I just genuinely made a bad decision in the heat of the moment, and I guess I should have told him the truth when he asked me about what I've been talking to Rebecca about, so he could prevent this from happening altogether. He told me that if I told him before she announced the story, he would have still dragged her out and kicked her out of the event. The only thing that had irked him was that I hadn't told him the truth when he'd asked me, but he understood that I'd made a bad call and forgave me for it, because it was coming from a place of emotional irrationality, and I agreed with him. Besides, there was also the matter of my parents getting to know about this, and had Shawn been removed from the equation, then I would probably still have to let her make the speech and expose me, because then, finally, my parents would have been able to find out. I just went about it in a very silly way and I apologized to him for it. He accepted it, and it's all better now. We're still not on speaking terms with Rebecca, and neither has she reached out to talk to Shawn or even apologized to him for what she did. He did ask his sister, and she told him that Rebecca believes that she's the one who owed an apology because she was the one who unceremoniously kicked out of the event over something petty, just because she decided to tell everyone the truth about me. Shawn, Hannah, my father-in-law, and my parents all agree that it's better if she stays away for the time being, because her behavior at the baby shower was nothing short of appalling. She tried to ruin a really beautiful day for me that her own children had organized just so she could put me down, and because of the pregnancy, I was already feeling pretty sensitive about things. I didn't want to feel even worse about things, so it's best that we stay away from another, unless she decides to turn a new leaf and become a better person somehow. But I highly doubt that is likely to happen. P.S. A couple of you had asked me why I didn't speak up or report the professor when I found out that he was engaged. I thought it must have been clear in my post that at the time, I was still in love with him, and I didn't want to ruin him, so I just kept my mouth shut. I was pretty sure that he'd announced his engagement to put all of our dating rumors to rest, but last I heard, he's still probably married to his wife and even has a son now, so I guess our relationship was a mistake. I no longer care about what he's been up to, so please stop suggesting that I go and tell his wife about our affair back in college. I didn't want to disrupt his life back then out of love, and now I don't want to do it because it's water under the bridge for me. If she finds out on her own, good for her, but I'm not going out of my way to pull off some vigilante crap right now. Hey guys, so it's been 2 weeks since the baby shower, and 3 days ago, Hannah came back to talk to us. She occasionally comes around to visit us and see how I'm doing because we're good friends, and so does my father-in-law because they're all in good terms with me, excluding Rebecca. They've continued to keep in touch with us, and we didn't think it would become a problem, but apparently, she doesn't appreciate it anymore because she's threatened to cut Hannah out of the inheritance if she doesn't cut ties with us. That's what she was here about the other day to discuss it with her brother and me. She refused to cut us off, obviously, but she was very upset about whatever Rebecca was doing and was venting to us about it. I think it's really unfair and ridiculous because it's she who has the problem with me and not the other way around. She's already tried to mess up my relationships with my family once, and now she's trying to do it once again, which is just disgusting. My father-in-law has been trying to fight it out with her and make her see why she's wrong, but she's too stubborn and self-involved to see that. He isn't going to exclude his kids from the inheritance, but Rebecca has said that she's going to give it all away to charity if they don't apologize to her for behaving badly. Hannah was very upset naturally, and while venting to us, she told me that she'd said that she wasn't going to stop seeing us and didn't care about the inheritance at all, which is a pretty big deal. Shawn and I are both corporate employees and earn well, so we don't care about Rebecca's money anyway. But Hannah is just starting out as a freelance graphic designer, so she definitely needs all the financial help, and she mostly used to take money from her parents if she'd fall short. Rebecca had inherited a ton of money a couple of months ago when her mother, Shawn's grandmother, had passed away, and so she'd use that money to help out Hannah whenever she needed it. Now, that's going to come to an end as well, and I felt awful about it. So Shawn and I told her that she could ask us for any help whenever she needed. She tried to tell us that she would look for an alternate way, but we insisted because, honestly, she was willing to give up a lot just because she wanted to be on the right side, our side. So this was the bare minimum that we could do for her, and we wanted to do it. We insisted on that, and it was a really emotionally charged meeting for all of us, but at least we're glad that we were able to avoid getting her into financial trouble just because she was on our side. Rebecca really can stoop to any level now just to get an apology out of us, and she's just doubling down on her own awfulness at this point. So, it's been really long since I checked out what was going on here. I can't even remember the last time I opened Reddit, but that's probably because I was pregnant and about 3 weeks ago, I finally gave birth to my baby. I am now the proud mother of Perseus, my son. I used to be a huge Greek mythology nerd, and so was my husband, coincidentally, so it was really easy to agree on this name. He's happy, healthy, and as cute as a button. I am sorry that I'm gushing so much about my baby, but gosh, I just can't stop thinking or talking about him, and neither can Shawn. We've become those annoying parents who show everyone pictures of our baby, but I don't care. I love it like this. A lot of people have congratulated me so far, and my parents have started coming over almost every other day to either help me out or just to hang out with Percy. My husband and I have both been working from home to spend more time with him, and Hannah has practically moved in with us, so she can be closer to the baby. A lot of people would find this overwhelming, but honestly, I love this. I love it this way. I love the company, and I'm much happier like this, surrounded by people who love me and are constantly showering me with affection and attention. I barely have to even lift a finger now, because everyone's doing all the household work for me. Earlier, it used to be me and Shawn splitting all the work equally, and ever since I got too pregnant to move, he was doing most of it on his own, and we'd even hired a maid to help out. But now we don't even need her, because of how helpful and thoughtful everyone's being. My father-in-law had come by several times too, even though his wife has still not apologized to me for anything that she did. She did try to talk to Shawn and said that she wanted him to bring the baby over to her place so that she could see him. No idea where that sort of entitlement comes from, but of course, Shawn told her that he wasn't going to do anything of the sort. He also told her that she wasn't welcome at our home to come see Percy either, because she hadn't once bothered to think about me or ask about me ever since the incident at the baby shower, and if she didn't care about the mother, then she didn't need to come by to see the baby either, not even me. She hadn't even bothered to check up on her son, but now all of a sudden, she wanted to play a happy family, and even that had to be on her terms. She's the one who wanted to go no contact with her, and now she can have that. Both my husband and I have blocked her and have also told Hannah and my father-in-law about it, so they're going to respect our boundaries too. This is exactly what Rebecca deserved, and I'm finally getting rid of her. Alright guys, that was it for today's story. Thank you very much for listening. Go ahead and smash that like button for me, and subscribe for more stories. Thanks again. We will be seeing you in the next one.